This guy amassed a $3.5 million investment property portfolio in 6 years. And the crazy thing is, he did this all with an average salary.
So if you go to ABS and then you look up what the mean salaries across Australia is, I'm right around there.
No, he's not a trust fund baby, no inherited assets, and there's no luck involved. In fact, his very first property investment locked him out of the property market for over 10 years.
Probably 100K over market value. And by doing that, I was locked out of property investing for probably about 10 or 12 years.
Realizing he had nothing to leave behind for his daughter and to be a better dad, he ventured headfirst into property investing with a goal to be able to spend more time with her, do school pickups, and enjoy tasks like cooking for her. I wanted to bring Ricky Chiu to the Duo tax office to learn about how a single dad in his 40s, wanting to be a better father, was able to amass such a successful portfolio.
We're looking at about the $3.5 million mark.
In this video, we'll share with you how he grew his property portfolio on an average salary, how he identifies great property investing opportunities, what tools Ricky uses for research and due diligence, where Ricky believes are the best places to buy, how Ricky is able to achieve his dream of leaving something behind for his daughter and getting his time back. We're so glad to have Ricky Chiu, one of our favorite customers here at Duo Tax, and it's got a real pleasure to have him. He's a very avid investor and very focused investor, very out there in the community, and we're so privileged to have him.
Thanks, Tuan. Thanks for inviting. It's nice to meet everyone. I know I've dealt with quite a few people at Duo Tax, so good to put a face to the name. Yeah, so just a little bit about me. I'm a single dad, 45 years old. I work 9 till 5. I've been doing credit for about 21 years, credit and collections. As I said, I earn a very average wage. So if you go to ABS and then you look up what the mean salaries across Australia is, I'm right around there.
And you're looking, of course, for a passive way to earn income to look after the family. Is that the reason why you sort of delve into the property space?
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone wants financial freedom because it buys you time, it gives you options to spend more time with your parents, your family, your partner, your kids. There was a while where I sort of dipped into shares, but lost a ton of money there. And I needed just other ways of making money a little bit more
securely.
Yeah, it's more secure. Because at the end of the day, no matter what happens to the market, people need to live in houses. And even if the market crashes and I lose value, at least I can collect rent. Whereas for shares, if you lose it, you lose it. There's no sort of two ways about it.
Going into that, so tell us what type of properties you sort of invest in, what type of markets, where is it, how does that all gel for you? How do you do research around that?
Yeah, so I have 6 properties. Spread across regional New South Wales, regional Queensland and regional WA. So my first property that I purchased was 20 years ago. It was a home and land package. We were approached by a family uncle. When I was about 25, I knew nothing about property and I never thought to invest in property because when in your 20s, all you think about is parties, going out, social life, etc.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. Nice cars, meeting people. And so I was approached by a family friend, an uncle. He must have been given a good amount of money to spruik for a developer who was at the time in 2004 purchased a huge amount of land in Ipswich. And I remember going to my uncle's office when he was trying to pitch me this home and land package. And when he opened up the map, there must have been 200 or 300 houses that he needed to sell. And all the ones marked in red, a red X, was the ones that he's already sold. So he must have been doing well in that front. So I thought, oh, he's a family friend. I can trust him. And the other selling point was I didn't need a deposit. And another selling point, I also get a rebate of around 10 grand. And I thought, as a 25-year-old, it was $10,000 cash.
Yep.
And I thought, that's amazing. A house with no deposit. You can get me fully the loan. I don't have to do anything other than sign the contract. He's doing all the paperwork, talking to the broker, etc. And I also get 10 grand as a rebate. He called it a rebate. And I thought, that's amazing. That was the first property I ever purchased. Probably the worst decision of my portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I purchased that house, probably 100K over market value. And by doing that, I was locked out of property investing for probably about 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
Because I was in negative equity and because I wasn't a super high earner, I couldn't even sell the property because if I sell the property, I would have to pay a gap of another 100K. and I was locked out for a good maybe 10 or 12 years. And then I sort of gave up my property because it was such a bad experience because the repayments were so high, my income wasn't that high. So I can afford to upkeep it, but I couldn't pull equity, the rents weren't moving, it was very negatively geared. It left such a foul taste in my mouth that I didn't even touch property for, about 10 or 12 years.
Wow.
It was not until 2016, 2017, a friend of mine made huge money on stocks. I didn't know anything about stocks and I was a bit hesitant, but then he showed me his ComSec, trading app, and it was a 7-digit number in there. And I said, whoa, wait, what? But then I found out he researches that stuff every single day. And without knowing anything about it, I said, look, I'm happy to go ahead with it, but I really need I can't be screwed in this.
Yeah, see.
So yeah, he gave me a stock, I can probably share it now, but PLS when, Pilbara Minerals, when it was about 6 cents.
Mining stock, yeah.
Yeah, mining stock, yeah. It was when it was about 6 cents, 12 cents. In 2016, 2017, I probably made about 150K. And so I thought, okay, I can't tap into the equity for the first home and land package, but now that I've got 150K, I can start looking at property again. And so my second property was purchased in 2018.
And how did you do that? Like going to your second property, did you get advice for it, or like because you've learnt now your first time you're being burnt?
Yes and no. So I know I wanted to get into property, but because I left it for 10 or 12 years, I had no knowledge. Like I was complete newbie. And then that's when I started jumping onto the property forum, the property chat forums. And I was just trying to research, trying to get a gauge of areas, price point, etc. from the forums. They can be brutal in the comments. So I learned the hard way. And then I saw there was a new thing called buyer's agents. And I found out that they literally find a house for you, they buy it for you, they settle everything, and you pay them a fee. So they do all the work. And I thought,
research.
They do the research and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
negotiations as well, correct?
Negotiations, yeah, end to end.
Yep.
They do BMP, they negotiate, they find you a property manager, insurance, everything. And because I want to get a property and I didn't have the time to research and buy 6 months later, I found a BA. He's doing really well now, but I found a BA and engaged him. And he found a property for me in the Logan Council.
Yep.
Yeah, and bought my second one there.
Yeah. And how did that 2018 property acquisition go? How did that perform for you?
So the key learnings that I took away from that one was buyer's agents, they do the work end to end. So if you're just time poor, they can be great. But I realized that there wasn't that much effort put into it. And I'm not saying this across the board that all buyer's agents are, but the deal that I got wasn't particularly good. Yields weren't particularly strong. This buyer's agent sent me a few listings. And when I went to realestate.com, it was literally, I sorted it by lowest price point, and he was sending me the first one, the second one, the third one. Yeah, so it wasn't any off-market deals, there's nothing special, but hey, I wanted a house, and so I said, all right, fine, that one.
Maybe tell us about one of your best performing acquisitions in property. How did you go about choosing that and going down that route?
So one of the, I won't call it my best performing, but one of the properties that I have that I am probably most proud of was probably one that I found in Gracemere, Rockhampton, Queensland.
Yep.
So I got that one in 2022, early 2022. Why is that my favorite one? It's probably because it was the one where I did it myself and I did all the research for it and I did it from bottom up. So a lot of people research top down. They would listen to a place, they would hear a guru mention, say, Perth or Townsville, and then they would start looking in that area. Whereas when I found Gracemere, I didn't even know that word existed. I literally went to realestate.com and I put in just all my criteria to find that one. So I started with, my budget was 350. So I set max limit, 350. I wanted 450 rent, because 2 years ago, 450 rent was positive cash flow when interest rates were 2%.
Yeah.
So, in the search criteria, I put in 450. And then when I ran the query, I created a watch list in realestate.com, every house, and I was just scrolling. A lot of these suburbs and places I just didn't know existed. But I was just scrolling and scrolling. Any house that looked half decent, brick house, big piece of land, I just put it in my watch list, just to narrow it down. And so when I got to about 20 houses, I went to that watch list and then I started filtering. And then I got to Gracemere, I thought, that looks nice. It's a nice new looking house. It's 10 years old. It's a big piece of land, good rent. And so I started looking at the next level. I went to the council. so Rocky Council, and see what projects were coming up. And so it looks like there was development, there were projects, there was population, there was enough people, there was diversity in economy, infrastructure, hospitals, airports, all of that.
Like, what's really stemmed all this initiation to say, hey, I need to find the right type of properties? And
It was around that 2018 when I bought my second property with the BA, and I was just seeing everyone around me just growing. My friends were getting their PPORs, they were, starting businesses, and I had a great social life. But then I look at myself and I thought, I've got nothing to hand down to my daughter. If anything, I have debt. I have negative 100K on this house. If I die, she's going to get a piece of debt. So I thought, I've got to do something. And so that gave me the motivation to, start making moves, start taking action.
What are some of those tools that you are using to vet your best investments?
First and foremost, property is a long-term game. When you buy a property, you want to hold it for, unless you have a strategy where you buy, reno, flip, most of the time people like to buy, set, forget, collect rent, set and forget, and not worry about for 10 or 15 years.
Purely passive.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, the area that you look at has to have future plans. So always, in terms of tools, 100%, I think you can get a lot of information from the council website. So two things I look at is always a budget, and every council website should have a bit where they talk about finances and budget for the next upcoming year or next few years. So something that would jump out at me if they said, we're putting up a new shopping centre, spending, $1 billion in that area, putting in pools and recreation and parks and playgrounds. In terms of online tools, I know a lot of people pay for it, DSR, RP Data, CoreLogic, you can pay for those, but I don't pay for any of those tools. You can use things like SQM, On The House, Property.com. There's a lot of free online tools, Real Investor. Normally what I don't stick to any particular website. Actually, even realestate.com and domain.com have a lot of information there. Like days on market, for example, you don't need a specific tool to look for it. If you go to domain, they normally show days on market, for example. So if I wanted to look for a particular thing, say vacancy rate of a suburb, I would just go straight to Google. As soon as you Google vacancy rate of the suburb, all those sites that I just mentioned and more would come up, and just click on them. And normally I get a consensus. So some of them, they're not always exactly the same. But if you look at, say...
Some consistency?
Some consistency. If every site says, or if most of the site says the vacancy rate is 1.2, 1.3, 1.2, 1.4, then...
Average it out.
Yeah, average it out.
Yeah.
And that works out pretty accurate.
For due diligence, what else would you be doing to make sure you vet the property?
I really encourage people to do cash flow analysis. It sounds like a very techie term, but it's actually very easy. Cash flow analysis is how much money is coming in, how much money is going out. So you collect all the rent, 52 weeks of your rent, take away your rates, your insurance, your property manager fees, strata, if any. So you do all that. You come to a figure, divide it by 52.
Yeah.
And if it works out to be $100 a week, if you can hold it, then hold it. I would always stress test it.
With some buffers?
With some buffers, yeah. When the banks give you loans, they add their own little buffer. But I would personally add my own buffer too, because you don't know what happens in your own situation.
Especially you can't foresee what's going on.
You can't foresee, that's right.
Just for the viewers out there, where do you go for your best source of education when it comes to self-learning, as you mentioned?
If I can make a plug, I would, these days, I would definitely enjoy, obviously, geotax. But I really enjoy Todd Sloan from Pizza and Property. Yeah, he's done some really good interviews. Just his demeanor, when he asks a question, he doesn't have any leading questions. Whereas some other interviewers or YouTubers, they tend to steer you in a certain direction, whereas Todd would take the answer and then he would accept that answer. And also the Oz Property guys, Jeff Miles and Joe Tucker, I watch their videos because they get a good range of professionals. You got your brokers, you got your private bankers, you got property managers, but not limited to, there's actually a lot. So if you go to YouTube and just type in, property, the word property, I'm sure there's a whole list of personalities.
You can do that almost in any search engine, Facebook,
that's right.
Google, and literally it will feed you heaps. What's the most exciting thing that you think is coming up in the property space?
I don't know if exciting is the word, but for the next few years, I just think because of the simple laws of economics, supply and demand, I think there's going to be a lot of money to be made, but only for the people who start making moves. Start doing your due diligence, start researching, start getting educated. If you're time poor, you can consider a BA, but start making the moves today, because I hear so often people shoulda, woulda, coulda, they should have bought 2 years ago, they should have bought 10 years ago. No one cares. We're at 2024, do something today.
And if they were to do something today, in the next 12 months, what would you do?
First and foremost, self-education.
Yep.
So whether you want to use other services or not, you still need to know if you're getting a good deal.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend people live frugal.
Yep.
Yeah, change spending habits. A lot of people want borrowing capacity, but don't want to sacrifice anything for it. There has to be sacrifice. Live frugal. It doesn't mean live cheap, live stingy, but live frugal. You don't need to eat out every single day. You don't need Uber Eats every single day. Spend not on material, but maybe spend on more experiences. Invest in education. A lot of it can be for free. You don't have to spend money, but you could.
On that topic, and let's, without any pressure, where would you buy? What would you do right now if it was your next purchase?
I literally just settled one like 2 weeks ago, so I need a bit of time to to save up and or pull equity out of my next one. But if I was to give tips to anyone who's new, just looking to buy something sometime this year, I'd probably look in the Queensland and the Western Australian markets, just because, especially if it's your first one, you don't want your first one to have a high holding cost, because if you buy in the wrong market with low yields, you'll be stuck with that one for years to come.
Yeah, and so leave yourself some breathing space with something that's affordable.
Yeah, affordable being one thing, and also high yields. Queensland and WA has just the highest yields. So if you buy one, there's a bigger chance you can dip into the next one quicker. Very strong markets, and just some regions I can share is for Queensland, we've got obviously Townsville, Rockhampton, Toowoomba, Bundaberg, Mackay, Gladstone. There's always markets within markets. I'm not saying they're always going to be good all the time, every single street, but you can deep dive into it. But there's some good regions with good money to be made. For WA, I'd probably, Perth is still affordable. 600K, 650K, you can still get in Perth. Or if you can't stretch to 600K, you can look at other regions like Albany, Geraldton, Bunbury.
Yeah, so those regional towns.
Those regional towns, yeah, satellite regions. Good yields, yeah, I always aim for, if you want a rule of thumb, I always aim for at least 6.5%. The one that I settled just 2 weeks ago, that came in with a whopping 8.6% yield. So that was a good one. That was a very good off-market deal. Made good relationships with the local agent, and she flicked it to me straight away, and I signed it within 2 hours of receiving it.
Almost like your own buyer's agency there, Ricky. I like that. Doing a bit of B2B networking. Fantastic. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Building some relationships to make sure that people are looking after you. So yeah, Ricky, what's the ultimate goal for you? Not even property investing, wealth generation, wealth creation. What is the ultimate goal?
If I could fast forward 50 years and snap my fingers and wish for it and that be the thing, financial freedom is very important. But with property investing, I don't do it just to make money, and I don't do it just for wealth. Yes, it's for that as well. But I actually enjoy the whole journey of property investing, from researching, finding the house, making the offer, all the way to settlement, getting that depreciation schedule. Yeah. And because I have a passion for the whole process, if I can make it happen, 20 years time, I would hope that I can be like the Audi of the BA world. While BAs are charging $15,000, $20,000 for a deal, I would come in and say, that's too much, $5,000. BA service, $5,000. Yeah, if I was already financially free. And
of course, it's a way of giving back, because you've done it yourself successfully, and maybe one day you could do it for others, is what you're seeking to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We've been fortunate enough to help you out with preparing tax depreciation schedules for your properties, and so they've accumulated an amount of depreciation, I think to the sum of about $25,000, I think, over all the properties. $25,000 as a tax deduction, call it, I'm not sure, $10,000, $15,000 in refund. What do you do with that?
What do you do with that?
What do you recommend people do with it?
Firstly, every year I get my tax return, I always spend a good chunk of that living life. So firstly, at the end of the day, creating wealth, making money, it's all about living life, having quality time with family, mum, dad, daughter. So every time I get a refund, I always spend a good $1,000, and I'll take my daughter and my nephew. Normally we'll go 3 nights, Airbnb, somewhere, Kiama, Entrance, wherever it is. Yeah, just to reward myself. I worked hard that year, you got to enjoy a little. If I was to say get a refund of say $10,000, I'd probably spend $1,000 or $2,000 on just myself, buying a nice little dress for my daughter, or, handbag or something. And then the other $8,000 straight into the investment kitty. I don't want to stop. So keep saving, keep pulling equity where you can, and keep buying.
Ricky, could you maybe elaborate
like where your property value and how much that investment portfolio is now worth? And how did you get up to that point?
Yeah, so across the 6 properties, we're looking at, give or take, market changes every day, but we're looking at about the $3.5 million mark. So just to elaborate on a bit of my journey before, my first 2 properties I shared with you was the home and land package, and then the second one was the BA in 2018. So come 2019, because I saw the BA do it, I thought, I'm going to give this a crack. I didn't know what I was doing, so how I bought my third one was, my research was, I asked my friend, hey, where did you buy last? And he said, oh, Tamworth. That was all the research I did. So I went to Tamworth and I went to buy a house.
As you do.
As you do. I didn't know anything about due diligence. All I wanted to make sure was I can afford to hold it. So I went straight to the yields in the description and said it was giving this particular yield. And I go, all right, cool. I can hold this one. So then, made an offer. I'm not even sure if I did a BNP on it. I think I just engaged a conveyancer and then went straight to settlement. And then, but after I bought that, I learned a lot of things. The things that you had to check, BNP, you got to be up to date with your finance. You got to make sure you can hold it. Due diligence. Yep. And then, as we all know, 2019 comes along, COVID hits, and then everything gets stalled. So for the next couple of years, I didn't really look at property because I think because of the hard lockdowns, a lot of BNP inspectors couldn't even go inspect properties.
Yeah.
So I sort of put that on hold for a bit, and so I was just saving money on the side. And then one of the biggest sliding doors moment, one of the most hardest years of my entire life, my 45 years of life, was in 2021, early 21, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. And then 3 months after that, my mum was diagnosed with cancer. And then a handful of months after that, I was told by my company that I worked 16 years at, I have a redundancy coming up. So I lost my job. Mum and dad are going through their thing. And then at the end of 2021, I was handed an eviction notice because the owner wanted to sell. And so all of those things are things that happen in life and you can't control. I could have dealt with all those individually, but all of them hitting me at once, it was very overwhelming. And everything's a priority. It's not like you crashed a car where you can just go, oh, I'll rent a car for now, when you can just, throw money at it, just to band-aid it. Everything was a priority. Mum and dad, medical reasons, had to help them. I did all the sort of translations, driving them to and from hospitals, specialists, etc. I had to find a job now because no job, no rent. I had to find a roof over my head because now I'm getting evicted. There was only things that I can control. The things that I can't control, mum and dad, I can't control that. I'm not a doctor. I can't cut it out myself. I can't cut out the cancer myself. The things I can control is the money side of things. So I actually sold my first property, that home and land package. So during COVID, it probably gained about 100K of value. So I sold it, I pocketed 100K, and so that I didn't have to worry about money for now, because right now my priority is helping mum and dad, driving them to and from hospitals, specialists, translations, etc. After we cut out the cancer, we went back for the checkup and they're both clear. So I can tick those off and I didn't have to worry about it. And then now the only thing left is to find a place and find a job. So I started applying for jobs and I found a job. And then I also went to property inspection when there was like maybe 30, 40, 50 huge queues to get in. And I thought the only way I can sort of tick this off is just to offer more money. So at the time they were asking for maybe $450 rent, and I think I chucked in an offer for $470, $480. And so because of that, I was put at the top of the list and I got the property. So during that year, I've been hit with 4 really big life-changing events. But then at the end of the year, it was like tick, done, mum, done, dad, done, found a job, done, found a place to live, done, my daughter secure. For that year, it was probably the toughest year. And that made me so thick-skinned and so much stronger having gone through that.
Yeah.
And from then on, from 2022 till now, within 2 years, I've bought not only 4 properties for myself, but I also bought 6 for family as well. Yeah, so I'm like a buyer's agent for family, except I don't get paid.
That's awesome. And of course, it's all based on your reputation, what you built for yourself, and on the back of that, helping others. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ricky, for coming on today. And I'm sure our audience has learned a lot, and it's been a pleasure having you on today. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me.